active as possible.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks for joining in, tuning into today's webinar. This is on build your brand and elevate your career. So, a
Okay.
quick introduction about myself. I work at Cisco as a customer delivery leader and got 17 years of IT industry experience. Uh, I am passionate about ideation and innovation. I do love user experience, data analytics, and mining, and of course, strategy and planning is something which I relish. And of course, I love to do one-on-one coaching and mentoring for budding business leaders, right, managers, as well as for tech innovators. That is another area which I am deeply interested at. On a personal level, I do like to read, occasionally cook, and of course occasionally blog. So there is a blog site, suhrt.in, and of course you can email me, reach out to me at ak@suhrt.in. uh, I have a engineering uh, degree from Mumbai University, and I have a general management from IIM Bangalore. So that's a quick introduction about me, and thanks again for joining in. So, just a quick question: have you watched Mirzapur web series? We are going to make it very light. It's not going to be a boring session, hopefully. But is that something which you have watched? Do you watch web series?
Yeah, I watched web series, but yeah, Mirzapur I haven't watched.
You haven't. Yeah. So let's go through that journey, and of course we'll have few things here. So what do you think? Does it
I
make
haven't
sense?
thought about me as a personal brand. So yeah, your headline for today is interesting because we think of companies as a brand or like institutes as a brand, but ourselves as a brand is a new concept. So personal
Perfect.
branding is I know there. I mean, I have seen people in LinkedIn and all who I think they are creating a brand for themselves, wherein they are projecting few things, and I think this is an ongoing trend where people are doing it. But for me, it's a new thing. If I have to start it, then yeah, I'll have to work on it.
Perfect, perfect. So this is a popular meme from this hit web series Mirzapur. Happens to be one of my favorite web series, and yeah, this character is Munna Bhaiya, very popular character, and of course this is a it's a famous dialogue which he has, right? So I believe we relate to this, right? We haven't really thought about our personal brand, right? As you very rightly articulated. Now companies have brands. You have Tatas, you have the Reliance Geos, you have the best of the brands. But individually, do we have a personal brand? Have you thought about it? Well, that's what we will delve into. And do you agree to this comment again by Mona Bhaiya? Happens to be another important scene in the web series. So for viewers who are not familiar with Hindi, I would like to translate. So what it is being said is, it is quite painful when people you have the talent, you know that you have the talent, and people don't see your talent, right? They don't recognize your talent. So Shravani, is this something which you relate to?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it happens always, right? I mean, sometimes we fall short of words because we can't. We think that, oh, are we saying too much about ourselves? So we sometimes hold back, even if we have to say something to our managers or give a past quote, like a past experience. Like for me, sometimes I feel like, okay, I have achieved so and so, but then sometimes if I'm putting it up again and again, or it becomes sometimes, oh, am I doing it too much? So yeah, obviously it feels.
Okay. So over the next 90 minutes, I'll try to make it uh, as worthy as possible of your time, right? So over the next course of the time, we are going to understand, or we are going to kind of deliberate upon what personal branding is all about, right? Personal brand building is all about, and how do you make your personal brand, right? What are the steps in making your personal brand? And of course, at the end of the session, I would want to leave the audience with a very good technique, right? A very good, not just a theoretical technique, but also a very practical takeaway on how do you build a personal brand, right? So without much ado, let me quickly go and share what personal brand building is all about, right? So as the definition goes, the personal brand refers to the reputation and perception what others have of you, right? It is there is one thing which is what we think about ourselves, and there is something which others have a perception about us, right? Maybe it is correct, maybe it is incorrect, maybe it is partially correct, whatever, right? But that is a perception which everybody has, and everybody is entitled to have their perception, and that happens both online as well as in the offline world, right? So that is a very crisp definition of what personal brand is all about. Now, why it is so very important? It is not just about self promotion, right? It is not about self marketing. We are living in this age of social media influences. Everybody, anybody and everybody with a blue tech is championing themselves as an influencer, right? So there is a lot of noise around all of us. So it is not just about self promotion, it is about controlling and shaping how others perceive us, right? So that is why personal brand building is so very important. Having a personal brand is so very important. Now, talking about the universal presence. Now, even if we are not conscious that, hey, I have a personal brand, or I need to develop a personal brand, even if everyone has a personal brand, whether it is being actively managed or not, whether we know about it or not, everybody has a personal brand, right? People constantly keep judging about us, be it in our social circles, be it in our professional circles, and everywhere. It's all pervasive, right? So so what about the reputation building? Now it is all about how do you um, how is this personal brand going to help you establish your credibility, how it is going to create new opportunities for you, right? Now many of us, we basically think that, hey, you know what, I have the skill, I will apply those skills and hope that it brings me the opportunities. But today the world has changed. We have to keep knocking at the doors, and we have to constantly keep differentiating ourselves from others, right? Now even if you have a product, for example, if say for example, if there is a new FMCG company, or there is a manufacturing company in the retail segment, they want to launch a new bathing soap. Now the space is so cluttered, right? How are they going to differentiate themselves? What kind of how do they attract their potential market towards them? So differentiating factor is a huge aspect for products, and it is a aspect for us as a personal brand. When we say us, it is humans in flesh and blood, right? So the reputation building has a lot of importance in today's world. It has earned a lot of credence. Coming to the professional identity, right? It gives you a professional identity. Now what does, I mean, of course we have our own identity, we have a Aadhaar card, we know what we are, there is a social standing what we have, but it also has to encompass the values, the skills, what is the expertise, what kind of personality we are, right? What do we kind of bring to the table, and overall the image what defines and sets you apart, right? So that is the professional identity which the personal brand building provides you, right? Does this give a good primer on what personal brand building is all about and why do we need it?
Yes, it does. Yes.
Perfect.
Just a small question, Ashwath. Will you be sharing these slides? Is that
I
fine?
can
Or
share the
should
slides.
I note it down?
I'll share you the slides.
Yeah,
I'll put it on a public repo and I'll share it.
yeah. Thank you.
But I would invite you to take some notes because that is
Yes,
something
I
which
am.
which will help you.
Yes,
So
I am.
yeah, and at any point in time, please do stop me whenever you have a question and let us make it as interactive as possible. Uh,
Yes, I am. Yeah.
So moving on, now we are going to look at, of course, now once you have done with this course, you would be in a position, or I would expect you to be in a position where you are now, you are somebody like, this, where you are a Munna Bhaiya from Murzapur, and, with full of confidence, and who goes and says, you know what, Jalwa hai hamara yahan, right? So hopefully, by the end of the next 1 hour, I would want you to reach over here, right? So without much ado, let me introduce you to the 7 steps of building your personal brand. Now, what is this personal brand and what are these different steps? Please do stay with me. And of course, there is a reference, which I have put in over here. It's a fantastic article, and I have extensively referred to it on the Harvard Business Review, which is a new approach to building your personal brand. So that is something you can read, but I'll try to get you the essence over here. Now, there is this interesting picture of a gentleman. Uh, can you identify who this gentleman is?
Yeah. We can't forget April 2nd, 2011. I'm a big cricket fan, so yeah, I would obviously relate to it.
Who else is not, right? In India,
Yeah.
cricket is more than a sport. It's a religion of sorts. And yes, Mr. MS Dhoni
MS
is
Dhoni,
one
yeah.
of the greatest example, of what a brand, a personal brand, what he has been able to build over a period of time. So if you look at it, this is probably his school photo where he has kind of won a shield, won a trophy, and on the right hand side, the extreme right, you have this famous picture which nobody can forget, right? That famous six, to win the World Cup for India in 2011. Right. So, what kind of adjectives does it come to mind when we talk about Dhoni?
For me, he is a person who everyone from any field you go, you can look up to him. So even it need not be any sports person or anyone related to cricket who needs to take inspiration from him. I am a big Dhoni fan too, so I look up to him, like, for even small things. I mean, recently he was speaking about some uh, cars and engines and how life has changed, and earlier we were using I mean, how each generation is changing and stuff like that. So it need not be cricket, I think. For me, he's an inspiration. That's one word I can just say.
Okay, so well said. But if I may ask you, what are the attributes which you will associate with Dhoni, or what kind of attributes which comes to your mind, or adjectives which come to your mind? Well, inspirational is one, but apart from that, is what are the other attributes which comes to your mind
Oh.
when you talk about Dhoni?
So yeah, I could say calm under pressure. I could say uh, smart, street smart. I could say leader. Mm, yeah, these three are the top
Absolutely
of
right.
my.
The
That's
way he
that's
handles pressure in extreme like critical situation, that is what I already attribute to Dhoni. So one quality.
ability to handle pressure with grace, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So very important of a leader, right? Many a times we do wonder how is this person able to be so calm. If he's faking it, he's doing it so well. but over the years we have seen him do it so very well. Those marginal calls which he takes, those the umpiring reviews which usually 9 out of 10 times goes in his favor. So it's amazing, right? So of course, one of the best brands, right? So quite an inspiration, right? So with that, let us quickly look into these 7 steps. Now, what are these 7 steps? First, you want to know what is your purpose, right? Know your purpose is your first step, which is defining your purpose, right? What is my purpose of building a personal brand? That is my step number one. And stay with me. I'm going to delve into detail on each one of them, and you will be having all the details with you at the end of the session. So just be a bit patient over here, right? So first step is know your purpose. The second step is evaluate your brand, right? You do your dipstick analysis, evaluate your brand. Third, you want to craft your story. What is your story, right? People want to not know about you, but people want to know about your story, right? So, what is your story all about? So, we are going to talk more in detail about that. And then, we have to practice what we preach, right? So, how are we going to live your brand? How are you going to live our brand? So, that is now point number 4, step number 4, rather. Then, of course, once we have kind of lived our brand, we want to share our story, right? Share our story to the outside world. So, what are the different mediums? How are we going to do that? That is point number 5, step number 5. Step number 6 is how are we going to connect with others? Because personal brand building doesn't happen in isolation, it has to happen in a framework, right? Where people are involved, right? People whom you admire, people whom you don't admire, people, those who admire you, those who don't admire you, and so on and so forth. You need to have that connection. Without that, doesn't happen. So how is that going to happen? And the last step is how do you adapt and grow? So it is this continuous improvement, right? Now I have put this picture of Dhoni on the left and the right, and all of this didn't happen over a period of time. He had to constantly keep on adapting himself. He had to constantly keep on, remember those days when he blasted that century in Rawalpindi against Pakistan, having long hairs, and Musharraf was going gaga over his hairstyle. And then he mellowed down, and he was, he seemed to sport a gray beard and all, and more like a statesman, right? More like a patriarch who has the control over the the situation at any point in time. So he's kind of transformed, right? So how did he adapt and grow? So lessons for us on that front, right? So these are the 7 steps, and that's it, right? You follow these 7 steps, you have your personal brand live and kicking, right? Can we go to the next step? Can we get started? Delving deeper?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. So first, well, yeah. Now, as I said, once you have done with all these 7 steps, I'm relatively sure this is what you will be saying. Okay. So let us go to the first step. Know your purpose, right? Now, how do you define your purpose? Now, the first thing is, as Shravani also mentioned, companies are associated with brands, of course. And as you see, companies also have vision and mission. For example, if you go to any company's website, the first thing what you'll notice is a vision and mission, what the company has defined for itself. Maybe go to Tesla, they will have a very clear, crisp vision and mission, right? So they'll have a vision, mission, and then there will be strategies, right? But usually you will see vision and mission. Now, we are not going to, delve into deeper as to what a vision and mission is. That is not the purpose of this session. But it is important that we need to identify, define what is our vision and mission, right? For both our personal as well as our professional goals. So setting up this strategic vision and mission, right? My vision and mission is not something that, hey, you know what, I need to celebrate my Ganesh Chaturthi, which happens to be tomorrow. And by the way, best wishes to all of you, watching this webinar. A very happy Ganesh Chaturthi. But my vision and mission cannot be something which is short sighted. It has to be a long term vision. It has to be a strategic vision and mission, and not a tactical one. Second, how do you identify your through line? Now, what is this through line, right? Now, that basically is like, you want to reflect on your life experiences, your decisions, right? What has made you what you are, right? The consistent traits, what you define, that is how you define your significance to others. Maybe you are somebody who's a dog lover, maybe somebody who you are a maybe a nature lover, maybe you are a climate activist, maybe so there is some trait what you have, and you need to define that significance to others. So that basically becomes your through line, right? Now, what do you stand for, right? Maybe there is a cause which you have very close to your heart, right? There are certain things which you have done which defines what you are, right? So that is your through line. Now, when you mix both of them, A and B, the vision, mission, and your through line, you can craft your personal value proposition. And I would invite all the listeners, all the viewers of this webinar, that one thing you want to take away from this is this, that how do you define your personal value proposition? This is a step number one, it's extremely important, right? Now, what does that mean? It basically means that you want to kind of specify what is the unique value proposition you intend to offer. You offer, you're going to put it on the table. Who is your target audience? You want to talk to your audience, right? You don't want to end up barking down the wrong tree. You want to understand who is your target audience, craft your message towards them, and what is your specify what is the distinctive capabilities that set you apart. So on both ends, you want to be part of the tribe, right? At the same time, you want to draw a distinction of what it is, right? Because let me give an example. Now, when you want to say, for example, brand yourself as a next in the Gen Z jeweler, right? Let me give an example. You obviously want to know that you are part of the tribe. You have been a goldsmith, you have been a artisan jeweler for these many years, but these are the kind of aspects which sets you apart, right? So both are extremely important. So if you take an example here, I have given an example here, and as I read it, please read this in your mind, and make a mental note, right? And craft your personal value proposition, right? So this is, if I may want to give you an exercise, this is one thing which there's no other exercise, this is one thing, right? And this is an example for a prospective employer. I'm the best engineering manager to hire among all the applicants because of the multiple industry certifications I have earned and the strong leadership and perseverance I developed as an alumni office administrator in my college, right? So what I'm doing, I'm giving a pitch to my prospective employer. I'm saying that I am the best engineering manager to hire among all your applicants because I have got multiple certifications, because maybe that is something which they are valuing, which is what it is. And I have demonstrated strong leadership and perseverance already in my other, work, which is, in my previous work, which is as a alumni office administrator in my college, right? So this is an example. Now, how would you create your own personal value proposition? Okay, food for thought. Maybe take a quick note of it and write it as a write it when you have time. Cool. Can we move ahead?
Yeah, just give me
Yeah.
a minute. I'm just reading through the slide.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm done.
Sure. And the next quote is of a very, I mean, this person needs no introduction. And let us see what he has to say about brand, personal brand. Jeff Bezos, a very famous quote from Jeff Bezos is, "Your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room." So powerful and yet so true, right? So this is one, the best quote which you can associate, which you can understand the importance of personal brand from this one quote itself, right? So moving ahead, step number two is, now that you have defined your purpose, now you want to evaluate your brand, right? Now what do you mean by evaluating your brand? Of course you want to understand. Now not everybody has been conscious, and as we said, personal brand is something which is it's always there, even if you are not actively managing, or even if you're not even aware of that, something like a personal brand, right? There might be perceptions created about, XYZ. In workplaces, people form opinions quickly, and those opinions turn into perceptions, and those perceptions, good or bad, come back to haunt us, right? Well, it is, if it is correct, then it is fine, but if it is not, then we'll have to work to kind of have that course corrected, right? So it is important to self reflect, right? Reflect on your background on and your interactions, any kind of interactions. And we are constantly being judged, not just in our workplace, but maybe even in a coffee table conversation. Maybe we are out there with our friends and colleagues, for a movie or for some other event or something. We are constantly being judged, and we are constantly being perceived, right? So we have to be aware of this, right? So we'll have to reflect on our background and interactions. We need to create a distinct, specific description that capture our unique qualities. What are our unique qualities, right? Do people know about, right? So that is our evaluation. So we need to create that, distinct, specific descriptions which captures our qualities. And of course, we need to kind of do that self assessment, whether, what you have kind of, what is your desired brand, and is that something which is being portrayed. Now that is a dipstick analysis which you always have to do, right? Now how do we do that? By gathering honest feedback. And trust me, people, it is very difficult to get frank and candor feedback, right? Even from the best of our friends, even from the best of our well wishers. Generally, the sense is people don't want to, rub us the wrong way. Many of us get emotional, many of us don't take constructive feedback positively, right? So it is extremely difficult to gather those honest feedback, but we'll have to do, right? So we have to seek feedback from diverse sources, from those who know you well, right? And those who barely know you. So it is important that people who know you well, what do they think? And people who barely know about you, what do they think, right? And of course, encourage candid discussions about your strengths and weaknesses. Take it as part of your stride. The feedback is extremely important. And of course, compare your external perceptions with your self assessment. Now let me tell you one example. There was a colleague of mine who thought that, hey, he was, being very diligent in his work, and he just concentrated on what needs to be done, right? Let the job do my talking, let the job do the talking for me. That sort of a mentality, buried himself into work, 12 hours a day, and so on and so forth. But the perception what was getting built was that, hey, this person is not a team player, right? Now that is that was of course an incorrect sort of a perception, but that is a kind of a perception which got built, right? So it is important you understand compare what is your external perceptions, right? And what is your self-assessment. From your self-assessment, from this person's self-assessment, this person was like a judicious, very studious kind of a person. Apologies. And the external perception was that he was not very outgoing. He was not an extrovert, so he was an introvert. So there was a zero sum game, sort of what was attached. And that is what is happening, right? Happens with all of us in different areas, right? So it is important to gather that honest feedback. Thirdly, identify unique attributes in the area to improve, right? Now, what are your unique attributes? What is your unique value selling proposition compared to your peers and competitors, right? You're always, of course, you might think that, hey, you know what, I don't want to compete, but at the end of the day you are competing. All of us are competing. We are competing with our peers, we are competing with our competitors, right? We need to highlight what are the attributes which makes us stand out. What is our standout mantra, right? Why should people consider us than somebody else, right, who's sitting next to us, who is our peer? It's important. Maybe we'll not like that sort of a comparison, but it is inevitable. It is important. So how do you identify these attributes and understand what are your areas of improvement, right? What are your areas of growth and skill development as part of your brand portfolio? As you build your brand portfolio, you want to understand, hey, you know what, uh, uh, I am doing all the stuff, but I am somehow, some people come and say that, hey, you know what, I am not very forthcoming when I want to express my opinions. Of course, I can do a lot of technical discussions, blah, 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 but I'm not able to kind of express myself, and I'm seen as a not a leader material. Haven't we heard discussions like this? People get typecasted, right? So we want to understand what are our areas of growth and skill development and improve upon as we build our brand portfolio. Cool. So define your purpose, evaluate our brand. Are we good with this?
Yes.
Any questions? If not, I can move forward.
Yeah, I'm good. You can go ahead.
Yeah, when you say gather feedback, so if it is our friends and all, like it will be a little bit difficult, right? So you expect, I mean, you suggest that we should ask for feedback directly or just get the cues from them or understand it that way.
Yeah, so the questions can be, what does it, I mean, say one of the question which you can ask is, hey, what will you talk about me to others when I am not around? You see this kind of a question, and don't add leading questions. Don't ask a question that, hey, do you think I am having a good sense of humor? No, don't ask that question. Instead, maybe you can ask, hey, what are the other attributes you see which are, positive in me, which are attractive in me, which makes me, want you to be part of your team, be part of your, success story, right? So gathering feedback, one thing is don't ask leading questions, right? And secondly, ask open-ended questions, right? Say for example, hey, what would you how would you introduce me to somebody when I am not there around, right? So what try to understand what they think about. Does that help?
Yeah, got it.
Okay. Moving forward, your third step now that we have evaluated our brand, the third thing is now you want to craft your story, right? You want to kind of create your story, right? What is your mojo, right? Now it is extremely important that, this whole mantra which this recent some of these recent financial influencers or media influencers whatnot, there is this term which I kind of don't agree with all due respects, is fake it till you make it, right? No, the moment you fake it, people make it out, people can sense that you're faking it. So there's no point doing that. Embrace your authentic self, right? Identify those key moments of authenticity and uniqueness in your life, right? There are going to be some chapters in your life which you think are unique, which you think are authentic, right? Recall those instances when your distinctiveness led to success or some notable experiences, right? So what is your authentic narrative, right? That is extremely important. Stay authentic, stay positive, right? Second is, how do you want to have this illustrative storytelling, right? People don't like, you know mundane introductions. People like stories, right? We all have listened and grown up listening to wonderful stories recited by our parents and our grandparents, right? So that always stays in our mind, right? So share those stories that showcase your problem solving abilities, maybe, or resilience when it comes to various situations, right? Those are something which you want to kind of really look into, tap into. Use your real life examples to illustrate your strengths and embody your brand, right? What are the things which you did? Say, for example, areas when you had kind of, you had potentially or positively impacted somebody. Use those real life examples, which will give it an authentic feel, not just give it an authentic feel, and it is authentic in itself, right? Just that you are presenting it, uh, maybe in a dramatic way, maybe in a way which is suitable for your communication uh, way, right? And lastly, enhance your personal value proposition, right? Now that you have defined your personal value proposition, you want to elevate it, you want to enhance it. Now, how do you do that? You want to narrate your experiences. How do you elevate your personal brand? Narrating your personal experiences and attributes to your compelling stories, right? Now, there is I know all of us are cricketing fans, but we know, how, Sachin grew up, and he toiled, in the under the basking sun of Shivaji Park, and before he could become a boy wonder, he had already, kind of put in the hard miles, right? So those are, and his that famous partnership which he had with his friend at that point in time, his classmate Vinod Kambli, playing for Shardashram, their school, and they kind of had a record partnership at that time, right? And when the coach was calling them back, they didn't even look at the coach because they wanted to keep on batting. Hey, these are, stories, which elevate their brand, right? Which gives you this insight that, hey, you know what, Sachin is made for cricket, right? And cricket is kind of made for Sachin. That kind of a story, right? So very compelling, right? Now, how do you make your personal value proposition memorable and persuasive through storytelling, right? You want to have a lasting impression on your target audience. How do you do that? You want to share a story which will which will make them remember you, of course, for the right reasons, right? So this is how you want to craft your story. Are we good? Any questions here? Okay. If we don't have any other questions, can I move ahead? Can I get a quick?
Yeah.
Yes, Shavani, you had a query or something. If you have a
No, I'm
comment
good.
also, it's fine. I'm happy to hear that. Okay.
Yeah, very informative slide. It's nice.
I've kind of put all of this in a power of three, right? We call it as a power of three. So every step I've kind of given what are the three important ingredient for that step, so it is easy to understand, and it is easy to digest, right? So let's move forward. The step number 4 is, now that you have defined your purpose, evaluated your brand, crafted your story, now you want to live your brand, right? You want to kind of, practice what you preach, right? You want to kind of consume that medicine which you are prescribing to others, right? You want to show that, hey, what you're portraying yourself as, that your brand is what it is. You want to live that brand, right? Otherwise, people are not going to take you seriously. People are going to see this gap between your portrayed brand and what you really are, right? So it is extremely important that we live our brand. How do we do that? We want to have mindful communication. Now, what do we say about mindful communication? I already delved upon it, that wherever we are having this communication, maybe it is in a personal setting, maybe it is in a professional setting, maybe we are talking in a bar with friends, maybe we are talking watching a game, people are constantly judging us, people are forming opinions, people are forming perceptions about us, right? Which ultimately reflects what is our personal brand. And because, as I said, personal brand is not what you think about yourself, it is about what people perceive about you. That is your personal brand, right? So it is important that you have mindful communication. You want to be aware of the messages you convey in everyday interactions, right? Not just in your formal meetings, not just in your scrum calls, right? Not just in your staff meetings, but everywhere, right? You want to choose responses that reinforce positive aspect of your brand, right? Well, nobody kind of likes a crybaby. Today everybody is action oriented, everybody is result oriented, right? So when you want to go share a problem, why don't you also share what is your solution? If you put if you had the luxury to solve that problem all by yourself, what will be your take? So reinforce, have that positive reinforcement, right, in your responses. Extremely important. Use intentional and engaging language to convey your positivity and productivity, right? Of course, we have to highlight risks. We have to highlight in our personal lives, in our professional lives, we have to constantly highlight, um, you know even when you're parenting, for example, right? We want to, our intention is to solve the problem, right? Not to make the problem bigger, right? Not to blow it out of proportions. So it is extremely important that how do we convey, how do we use a language which is engaging, which is, you know, conveying a sense of positivity and productivity, right? We want to leave people with a ray of hope. We don't want to leave them that, hey, everything, it's like a doomsday sort of a thing, right? So we want to, make people see light at the end of the tunnel. Second is having, being aware, being situationally aware, right? Being context aware, being audience aware. Who is your audience? You need to understand who is your audience, right? Whom are you targeting your pitch to, right? Tailor your communications based on your audience's perceptions and familiarity with you, right? So it is extremely important that you craft your communication in line with your uh, you know um, how your audience is going to perceive it. Recognize when to emphasize different aspects of your personal value proposition, right? Now when we do this, now let me also tell you this, that nobody likes people who are braggy, who are who are extremely chirpy, and people tend to not really kind of appreciate that aspect, right? So you don't want to be braggy, right? You don't want to kind of, and people who know you well, you don't want to, I mean, of course, when we are talking with our friends, we usually don't go and say, you know what, hey, I did this, I did that, and this is what I am, and all these stuff, because they know us well, and there is no need for us to do that, right? So it is important that we understand who is our target audience, and we don't overdo it, right? We don't end up becoming borderline bragger, right? People who brag are not taken seriously, and we don't want to be the one who is not being taken seriously in our professional as well as personal life, right? So we want to kind of emphasize the different aspects in a very subtle manner, right? And use it responsibly, right? You don't want to do it all the time, right? So when to do it, that is the awareness which you want to bring in. Now, what is strategic storytelling, right? Now you don't want to create a metaphor for everything and go on and on. So you want to kind of have those strategic storytelling, right? Now you want to kind of creatively introduce your personal narrative in your initial meetings. You don't want to do it all the time, right? You may want to kind of go and hey, present, what, hey, this is what it is. So this kind of question, for example, hey, tell me about yourself. You know what, I am this working in so and so as so and so. Rather, we can say, hey, you know what, I hail from this temple town called Udupi, which is known for his famous Krishna temple and so many other things, blah blah blah. So you can have a strategic storytelling, which it adds to your personal narrative, right? So use those, right? You want to kind of have that in your small talks, in your formal discussions, and keep highlighting what you can offer, right? It is important for others to know why they should reach out to you, right? Because everybody has a want. Now the fact of the matter is, are you the one who's going to fulfill their want, right? There is a recruiter, there is a recruiting manager, there is a HR person who is assisting the recruiting manager. Are you fitting the bill? Are you the one whom they are looking for? What is the problem they are trying to solve in hiring you, or in hiring a position which you are applying for? That is what you want to understand and identify. Identify the need and specify what you have to offer by making a compelling story to illustrate it effectively. Now all of us has this glowing wonderful Queen's English written in our resumes thanks to ChatGPT, right? We are effective, all of us are effective problem solvers, all of us are fantastic individual contributors, and so on and so forth, right? So it is important that how do we highlight it using a compelling story which adds credence to what we are claiming, right? So that is all about living your brand. Let me take a quick pause. Any questions, any doubts till now, any comments, any feedback till now?
Yeah, I think you have articulated it very well. There's a subtle line of difference in overdoing it and doing it the right way.
Indeed, indeed. Sure. So now that we have defined our purpose, we have evaluated our brand, we have crafted our story, and now we are living our brand. Now what next, right? Now comes the interesting part that, hey, you know what? Share your story, right? How do you share your story? Every story, everything. When we think about media, what comes to our mind is the news channels or the social media, right? But what is our media? How to share our story, right? How do our personal brand details reach others, right? So you need to have a clear media plan. Now, what is this clear media plan? Is how you want to you want to kind of convey your brand to others, right? That is what you want to do. Now, what are the different ways you want to kind of utilize owned, media, earned media, and paid media channels? Now, what is this owned media, earned media, paid media? We'll quickly look into it in a short while from now. Now, why do we want to do that? We want to kind of increase our visibility, or the visibility for others about us. You want to increase the awareness, and you want to improve the understanding among your target audiences, right? So that is why you need to have a media plan. You need to have a strategy. Now, what is your owned media, earned media, paid media? Owned media is your own, social media, your Twitter handles, your LinkedIn, your personal websites, and wherever, or YouTube channels and whatnot, where you want to reach your audience directly, right? So that is a media which you own, which means that it helps you to directly connect to your audience. So that those are termed as owned media. Now, earned media is what you have mentions, you have recommendations, you have referrals to enhance your brand credibility, right? Imagine your VP, or imagine your what do you call, somebody who's good in that particular art, and they are promoting you, right? They are basically giving you a glowing recommendation, that, hey, you know what, so and so person is fantastic, and he or she has done this fabulous work, has a great portfolio, and I would definitely recommend for a job, for a gig, whatnot, right? There are mentions, right? You have today LinkedIn or any other places, even oral, when somebody sitting at the top of the tree goes and gives you a mention, it improves your brand multifold, right? So those are your earned media, right, which enhances your brand credibility. So what are the earned media you have? You want to keep on looking at it, right? Very important. And then what is the paid media? Now, of course, the connotations are little negative when we talk paid media, but stay with me here, right? The paid media here is how do you invest in strategic opportunities, like, say, for example, executive search consultants, right? You want to have a set of influencers today. Influencers give you, they have the reach, and you can, of course, use them to enhance your reach, right? And you can do targeted advertisement to amplify your brand. Say, for example, you are somebody who's say, for example, um, a part-time, you want to kind of uh, promote your cookery workshop, right? Cooking workshop or something like that. Now, you want to amplify your brand, right? Now, whom do you want to, kind of have mentions from celebrity chefs, right? Say, for example, some a Michelin star chef is kind of recommending people, his followers, his or her followers, to take up your course. Well, that's half the job done. Now, of course, there are opportunities like this where these don't come free, and of course we'll have to kind of pay for it. We'll have to kind of see how we can invest in these kind of opportunities to amplify our brand, our personal brand, right? Companies keep doing it all the times. That's how you see advertisements, right? Never ending advertisements on your television. Now, the same applies for individuals too, right? And lastly, how would you want to have an audience centric approach? Now, you want to tailor your media tactics to your target audience's preference and consumption habits, right? So it is important to identify uh, what is the consumption habit of your target audience, and accordingly look for it. Let me give you an example. And of course, today is our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi's happy birthday. And one thing what he has done unique when he took office in 2014, if you notice, was he recrafted his media strategy. What did he do? He leveraged own media. By what does that mean? That he relied mainly on direct communication to his audience, which is the people of India, right? So what he did for I'm not kind of you know uh, giving a personal comment, but in this context, what did Mr. Modi do was he wanted to reach directly to his audience, which is the people. And what did he do? He made use of social media extensively, right? Made use of his radio broadcast, which is Man Ki Baat. Again, direct communication to the audience. And the intermediate media, the so-called MSM, right, was left in the lurch, right? They had to kind of instead of him or a politician running behind a media to which is the earned media to and the paid media to reach to the audiences, he flipped it and he understood that people there is a huge digital penetration in India, right? There is a huge increase surge in internet enabled people, right? People who are having smartphones in India. So he wanted to reach directly to them, right? So what did he do is he understood very clearly what is his target audience's preference and consumption habits. Because people by then, if you notice 2014, people were already fed up with all kind of, and even today fake news is all pervasive, and people, for good or bad, right, have lost some amount of faith in our media, right? It is unfortunate. I don't want to deviate much from this topic, but staying course on this, the consumption habit of people had changed from reading newspapers to watching news at 9. People had started consuming news from Twitter. People had started consuming news from WhatsApp. Again, I'm not saying it is right, it is but that is the consumption habit which people had turned to, and Mr. Modi and his party tapped onto it, right? So how do you want to tailor your media tactics, right? Opt for platforms and content that resonate best with your specific audience. Again, the example which I talked about amplifies this, right? To achieve optimal results, you want to kind of have your best bet to kind of talk about what happens, right? Now again, I'll give you another example. Now uh, you don't often see what do you call advertisements of say for example Tally solutions, right? Have you ever seen Tally giving a full page ad? Not really, right? Why? Because that is not our target audience. Those who are reading newspapers, maybe there's not their target audience, right? So it is important that you want to understand who your audience is and tailor your media tactic accordingly. Cool. So that's all about share your story. Any comments, any thoughts, any feedback?
Yeah, I'm good.
Is this making sense? Are you guys with me?
Yes, yes.
Perfect, perfect. So now we have shared our story, right? What did we do? A quick recap. We have defined our purpose, right? Then we evaluated our brand. Then what we do? We basically crafted our story. Then we lived our brand. and then we are sharing our story. We have shared our story. Now what next? Next is connect with others. Now you might, say, hey, what is the difference between connect and share your story? More or less, it is the same. Well, it is for all practical purposes, but there is some nuances, right? When we connect with others, right? When you are sharing the story, of course, you want to know the audience, but when you are connecting with others, there is a people-centric approach, right? You want to know or identify, you want to have those strategic connections, right? Now I'm not going, my sharing the story is like a broadcast, right? It might reach, I hope that it reaches the intended audiences, but it is not really targeted to one or two people, right? So then, we need to also have my strategic connections. Now we need to identify gatekeepers, influencers, promoters, and relevant communities. Now, what do we kind of really mean about gatekeepers, right? Now your gatekeeper is somebody who's going to, for example, in the corporate context, right? And your gatekeeper is somebody who's going to determine whether you are going to get promoted or not, right? Mostly it would be your direct manager, reporting manager. It would be your manager's manager, right? Your set of bosses, right? As per your organization's hierarchy metrics, right? So these are your gatekeepers, right? If you are in the business of, say, media, your editor is somebody who is going to take a call whether your story, your byline goes onto the front page, or it is going to get hidden in the seventh page, right? So these are your gatekeepers, right? We need to identify our gatekeepers. Many times what happens is we think that these are our gatekeepers, but they are not. It is important we identify who are the gatekeepers. And then, of course, then there are set of influences who positively or negatively influence the gatekeepers, right? So your gatekeeper likes or dislikes X. Now if that person is going to bat for you, if the person, that is going to form an opinion about you with the gatekeeper. You see what I'm saying, right? So it is important to identify who are our gatekeepers, who are the influencers, your promoters, right? They are going to be a set of well-wishers. They are going to be your sponsors. They're going to say that, hey, you know what, I'm going to sponsor this person, and over the next course of next 6 months, I'm going to be with this person, mentor, identify the mentor or mentor myself, ensure that this person progresses to the next step, blah blah blah, or reaches what he or she desires, right? So those are your sponsors or your promoters, right? And then the relevant communities, right? You might be part of different communities, you're doing community work. Of course, you want to kind of identify who are those, right? So it can be a tech community, it can be anything, right? Then, of course, you want to keep seeking opportunities to collaborate and amplify your reach, right? Personal brand is not something that, hey, you do this and it's created and it's there always, right? So just like a stock market, it can go up or down, right? So you will have to constantly be at it to ensure that you are ensuring that your personal brand is soaring, right? Of course, on the positive side, right? You don't want it to go down. You don't want all your hard work going down the drain, right? Ultimately, all of it is there is nothing like, hey, you know what, I am not expecting anything out of it. But yes, there is a lot of effort which is being put. Now, can we expect, can we expect some kind of a returns around it? That is how we are looking at it, right? So we want to kind of seek opportunities to collaborate effectively and amplify our reach, right? So those are our strategic communications or connections. We want to engage with key allies. Now, who are our allies, right? Now we want to approach with clear goals and specific requests, build genuine connection and offer value in return. Now we we see this unfortunate war in Ukraine, right? We are all reading about it. It has become a war of attrition, and nobody knows when it is going to end. To be very honest, right? But one thing, if you look, uh, now I'm no big fan of Zelensky. I'm not going to make a political speech here. But one thing, what he has done well is that he has approached with clear goals and specific requests to the West. That, hey, you know what? I need so and so weapons, I need so and so money. If not, you know what? We will get defeated and you will be next. Who would be the target of Russia? So, what he has done is that he has kind of used this fear psychosis to his advantage or his country's advantage. I'm not saying it is right or wrong. I'm just trying to connect the dots here, right? So he's been very clear with what are his goals, right? And well, to a good extent, he is achieved his goals, because what the United States has kind of provided more than 76 billion dollars US dollars over the past 2 years during this course of the war, and it is still counting, right? Taxpayers' money, right? So, well, whether that will help the Ukrainians is only God only knows that. But well, that is part of this strategy, right? Which we are using as an example to understand this better. Then, of course, build genuine connection and offer value in return, right? So it is important that why somebody needs to help you, right? Why somebody has to write that um, uh, that glowing that email, right? It takes just 3 or 4 minutes to write an email, but why will people even take that time out for you? Correct. What do they think is the value they get in return? It is a goodwill factor, or it is something which they genuinely feel or whatnot. Many a time, see, I'm sure all of us will agree that we will. And as the meme said, that it really sucks when that you have done all the work, you have the talent, but people just don't recognize it. They just feel that it didn't just happen, right? And that is something which is the most unfortunate feeling one can get in professional as well as personal life, right? So everybody understands and thinks, what is the value which I get in return? In colloquial Hindi, if I might say, people would think that first they'll say mujhe kya, first they'll say that mera kya, and mujhe kya, that what's in it for me, and if there is nothing, then mera kya, why should I even bother, right? So that is an approach which generally most of the world operates at. So we need to understand this psychological phenomenon, right? So we want to engage key allies and build genuine connections and build those mutually beneficial bonds, right? Highlight how your goals align with theirs. Now, as I mentioned, Ukraine's example, now Ukraine, has kind of pitched that, hey, you know what, this is a fight for democracy, right? They have kind of enlarge the battlefield as if that it is a war against an imperial invading country against a country which is trying to save democracy. You see how the goalposts they have kind of shifted, and they have made it, they have highlighted, right? So how do you kind of build these mutually beneficial bonds? Highlight how your goals align with theirs, because the West, first, it is also it is the beacon of democracy. Of course, they think that they are. And secondly, they are also, for the right reasons, they don't want territorial sovereignty being violated, right? For all the right reasons. So highlight how your goals align with theirs, right? So foster the relationship based on shared interest and support, right? It is important that we all are social animals. We used to live in a tribe. right? And of course we do that, right? How would you want to kind of foster relationship based on shared interests and support? So those are some of the high tidbits, or some of the tidbits on how we can connect with others. I'll take a quick pause if we have any queries on this. Any comment, any feedback?
No,
No.
nothing as of.
Okay, let me then go to the last step. Now that we have shared the story, we have lived the brand, shared the story, connected with others, the last step of establishing our brand, right, is not, I mean, nothing happens without continuous improvement, right? There is nothing like, you do it once and it takes care by itself, right? It is not self-regulating. You will have to constantly adapt and grow, right? Now it is important that you keep on. Now that you have built your brand, you have to constantly assess what is your brand, right? Regularly assess your value proposition and narratives, right? Because let me tell you, we all of us would be in a rude shock when we know that even the best of our friends, whom we think that they know us so very well, now they might have a different perspective, and it will really set us back. We'll get shocked, right, when we understand that our value proposition and the narratives are not getting matched. So it is important that we keep on regularly assessing it. We identify what are the deficits, right? Maybe sometimes I'll there is a casual comment or a joke which you made sometime, but that kind of rankled somebody. You have no clue that it kind of kind of messed up somebody, and that creates an impression, and that comes back to bite you in a different way, in a different forum where you have not even imagined, right? So identify those deficits, right? To rectify, and kind of identify what are the strengths to build upon, right? Now all of us, now that once we have our brand established, we want to conduct an audit or an appraisal of how our brand is looking like. What is our vision? What is our desire? What we are perceiving through the various strategies, what we thought, what our brand is built, what is our north star vision of what our brand is, and how do we kind of bridge the gap, right? Identify the deficits, and see what are the areas of improvement, and keep working on it. That's the only way, right? And of course, now we want to engage with truth tellers. Shravani commented about how people are not going to really open up, but it is important that we we connect with those truth tellers. Who are our truth tellers, right? Who are our genuine well wishers who can talk truth to us, right? They know that, hey, you know what, being an echo chamber for so and so person is not going to help him or her. Let me tell him the truth, or her the truth. So who are going to be our truth tellers? It's important that we connect with trusted individuals to understand, hey, what is happening, what others are thinking about me, of my brand, right? Ensure there is alignment between your current image and your goals, right? Now your goals might be lofty, but if your current image is not there, it is not going to give you dividends. You see what I'm saying? It is important that you have that alignment, you bridge the gap, and then you take actionable steps, right? Just understanding that, hey, there is a deficit. Hey, you know what, I am not a many times it so happens that hey, I am not a introvert person. I'm quite extrovert with my friends and all, but people in my office think that, hey, I am an introvert. I'm just giving an example. Some might think like that. Now what steps are we taking to address this gap, right? Our desire is, hey, people think that I am not a chat box, or I am not a chatterbox. but at the same time I'm not an introvert, right? So how do I convey this sense to others? What kind of steps do I take to address this gap? So it is important that you identify the gap and you take equitable steps, actionable steps to address it. Engagement, right? And then of course there is never going to be a case where you are going to have all the skills what you want to make your brand which your desire. So there is always going to be how do you want to enhance those skills, right? That 99 to 100 is the toughest step which you want to take, right? Or from 80s to 90s, right? Adapt to changing context by acquiring new skills. It's very important you have this mindset that hey, you know what, at the end of the day even I might be lacking few things. It's perfect, right? Everybody, it's a continuous learning improvement. There is nothing like the end. Just like how astronomy is, right? The more you try and explore, the more you come to know that hey, you know what we have known so far is minuscule, right? That's how it is. It's similar to the skills also, right? So there is never a saturation point. You have to keep on, the moment you reach there, the goalpost will shift further. So align your personal and professional goals with your evolving brand goals, because your brand goal, what was there for you 3 years back, is not what it is today. What is not going to be another 2 years down the line? It is going to evolve, right? So your professional and personal growth also have to walk step by step to achieve that, right? And then share specific stories and experiences, which is going to underscore and reinforce your brand strength, right? Now, if you're somebody who wants to position yourself as a public speaker, now you want to understand and highlight, hey, how you have made, how you have given these sessions somewhere, how you are able to kind of, give a session, tech talks or whatever, a brown bag lunch or a webinar like this. And, maybe you can, draw strengths from there, right? So it is important that you convey, right? Share your specific stories, and which will reinforce your brand strength. Okay, so with this, these are the 7 steps. Um, so quick recap. If I quickly go back, um, you have you want to know your purpose, which is defining your purpose, right? Once it is defined, you want to evaluate what is your brand. Maybe you have not actively managed it. You don't even know, oh, is there a personal brand? You don't know, but you want to evaluate what it is, what is there as is, right? And then you want to craft your story, right? Now that you have kind of crafted, what should be your brand story, then you want to live your brand, right? You want to live the moment, you want to live the brand, show them that hey, what you're projecting and what you're really doing, both are one and the same. And once it is done, you want to share that story with others, right? You share your story, and then you through your media plans, right? Crisp tactical media tactics. And then you want to connect with others, make strategic connections. And last but not the least, you want to constantly keep improving, right? You want to reevaluate, right? You want to kind of not be typecast that you know what, this is the brand what I thought, okay, I want to copy XYZ, I want to be another copy of this person. You'll always end up becoming a poor copy, right? So have that genuine intent, have your uniqueness, right? Keep evaluating, keep adapting, and keep growing. And that's how you build your personal brand, right? uh, this is a quick recap. Any other yeah, any feedback at this point in time?
Yeah, really nice session. Got to know a few things where what are the pointers to work on.
Great. And well, any other questions you have now that we are
No,
at the top of the hour?
yeah, Ashwath, it was a nice session.
So overall, it was comprehensive, and yeah, definitely got an idea like what to work on.
Sure. If there are no other questions, then I would thank you all, and of course, I would share this on the YouTube, and thank all who are watching it. And yeah, you can reach out to me. These are my details, contact details, and of course, you can come back to me. And yeah, wish you all the very best, and hope this helped you, and hope this will help you create a world class personal brand. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashok. Thank you.